Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is we call this the, online office hours, so to speak, but we thought Nettie had a wonderful idea. Nettie Matthews, who is the unsung hero, also behind the scenes that hates the spotlight, but is the queen of puns. So if you're looking for a funny daily pun, follow her, Nettie Matthews, on Facebook. I promise you will laugh out loud. It is pretty darn funny. So Nettie and I were talking about how to do a simple 1-hour session featuring some of our restaurateurs and folks in the food business to talk about how do you navigate what are restaurants going to do now in the post-COVID world. And I think it's important for us as business folks, as community stakeholders, as consumers to kind of see where the trends are. And we have with us a panel of experts today. We will have a Q&A time for actually most of the session will be open for Q&A. So in the chat box down here, feel free to drop a question right here, and we'll monitor that and be able to ask questions as we go, or maybe toward the end, but would love to have your questions. We have some that have already been sent to us. And so we encourage you to chat, and we encourage you to stay muted if you could during the event. And without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce a man who probably needs no introduction. This man also works behind the scenes. If you're ever on a call with Chris Strayer, he is likely on the phone, in the car, raising 2 children at the same time and closing business deals with people from other states and countries. So I don't know how he finds enough time to do everything in 24 hours in one day, but Chris Strayer, it is my pleasure to throw it to him. He is the Executive Vice President of Economic Development with the Fort Worth Chamber. Chris?
Thank you, Carlo. Appreciate the introduction there. Yes, it's a chaotic life. And if anybody's been on a Zoom call with me over the past year, you've most likely seen the roof of my car, because that's what I do. I drive around all over the place and my camera's pointing at the roof of my car. So no, it's been a great year. I appreciate everybody for coming out here. I am not one of the restaurant experts, although I like to eat. So maybe that does make me a restaurant expert, but really appreciate the folks coming on and providing us some guidance. This is part of our online office hours series. And this really comes from you and all the conversations that the chamber staff and our volunteers and our members have across the region. These trends, these are the things that we want to know about, and things that we want to know what people want to learn about, what resources are out there. So continue to give us feedback on what you want to know and what you want to hear about. So hopefully we can create more sessions like this. So with that, what I want to do is introduce our sponsor for this event, CLA, and Rick Baumeister from CLA. Really appreciate their sponsorship in this event. So Rick, I'll turn it over to you for a few words.
Sure. Thanks so much, Chris, and thanks, Carlo, and everybody else on the team for allowing us to be part of this event. We have been big supporters of the Chamber over the years. In fact, we've had at least one person chair there, and we've really enjoyed all the work that we've done with you all, and we just appreciate the opportunity to continue to be part of this. I appreciate it. I'll throw it back to Carlo.
Well, Rick, thank you. And, we couldn't do work like this without the generous supportive sponsors like you. So thank you so much. And folks, if you are interested in CLA, and Rick, feel free to drop a link to your website right in the chat there so we all can learn more about what you do and how we can support one another. Well, I am so fortunate to be joined by a panel of experts, and they know themselves much better than I do. So I figured I'll introduce myself first. I'm Carlo Capua. I owned a restaurant and catering company called Z's Cafe and Catering for 13 years. We decided to close a few weeks ago at the end of 2020 after 13 years of being in the restaurant business. And so partially due to COVID and partially due to sort of life taking you in a different direction. So I'm so honored to be a part of the Chamber, and equally honored to be a part of such a great panel today. We've got Mr. Donald Burns, who is the restaurant coach. Donald, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, just briefly, and then we'll get into some of the questions.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Donald Burns. I grew up in the restaurant business. My father was a chef. I started out like a lot of people, washing dishes, worked my way up the traditional kitchen brigade up to the area of being a sous chef. I do something to make my dad mad, and I'd be back peeling vegetables. It was a very tumultuous apprenticeship program. When I was 18, he told me it was in my blood. I said I want a transfusion. I don't want to do this. So I went into the military. I went into the Air Force. I actually went into a part of the Air Force called Pararescue. I was in the Air Force Special Operations Team. Got out, went back to college, found I could get jobs in restaurants because I had experience from high school. And then I found a really unique thing happened. I found I love the restaurant industry. So I started working with the right chefs, working in the right places. At 30, I opened my first restaurant. It did well. 33, I opened my second restaurant. It did very well. I sold those restaurants. I got recruited out by in California by a little known chef. You might have heard of him, Wolfgang Puck. I went around the country opening restaurants for Wolf. And then I've been doing the restaurant consulting and coaching thing since 2005. I have a couple books out on the market, both available on Amazon. My first book's called Your Restaurant Sucks. People didn't really get the message, so I wrote a second book called Your Restaurant Still Sucks. And I'm coming out with my third book in March, and it's called Your Restaurant Culture Sucks. And I'm done with the Suck series, okay? I'm very happy and very honored to be here. I love Fort Worth. I do work with Vicky and some other restaurants in your market. So, I mean, I love the area, and anything I can do to help the restaurants in the Fort Worth area, I'm more than happy to contribute. So.
Well, Donald, thank you for being here. And for any of you watching online or in the call, if you need a little reinforcement about how well your restaurant is operating, Donald might not be the right person to call, but Donald will tell it to you straight. And sometimes that's what we need. Because, you know, someone told me long ago, Donald, you'll appreciate this. If you want to start a business in the food industry and you give people samples of your food, your friends and family will lie to you. They'll say, oh, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. You need people to tell you, no, this is not going to work, and this is why. So I appreciate that. And feel free to drop a link to your website in the chat for your books. I think I'd be interested in picking up one too. You've piqued my interest for sure. Next, we have the lovely lady, the godmother, the aunt of the Fort Worth food and restaurant scene. She's been in the scene for a long time. She owns a restaurant that I'm sure you all have heard of, and many of you have surely eaten at. Vicky Cisneros, I'll let you tell a little bit about your restaurant and a little bit more about your background.
Carlo, I thought you were going to introduce Nettie. No, I'm Vicky Cisneros. I have been in the restaurant industry we've owned Los Vaqueros in the stockyards for 38 years. And I actually started working at Colonial Cafeteria, cleaning their restrooms about 44 years ago, actually, to be exact. And then went to work at McDonald's, then went to college, thought I was going to go into the legal field, went to help at the restaurant again, loved it so much, and remained there for the past almost 39 years. I do love the industry. I think it brings so much more to our communities and to the world, and especially, you know, to our state than people understand. It is a culture, as Donald mentioned. We're a different group of people. I think we are certainly, in this time, it's very necessary for us to come together and do what we can to help each other. We are very fortunate in that we have been in business long enough that we have a lot of customer intimacy, and we have very loyal guests that come back to us during the COVID crisis. But I did reach out to Donald and some other groups that I felt that I needed someone to just kind of help buoy me up during this time, because I think our whole world just turned upside down during COVID. So I'm just here to help in any way I can. I certainly don't consider myself an expert in anything other than giving someone a fabulous dining experience. So that's what I have to offer.
Well, Vicky, you have no doubt nurtured one of the most beloved and well-known family restaurants in Fort Worth, Los Vaqueros, and I think you're selling yourself awfully short. You have really moved the needle here in the restaurant scene in Fort Worth, and we just appreciate you. 39 years, is that right? You've been in the restaurant?
Yes.
So Vicky started when she was 2 years old. That really is remarkable, Vicky. We just thank you for being here. And to round out our panel, we've got the legendary Chef John Bonnell. Many of you have surely seen Chef Bonnell. If you're friends with him on Facebook, you've seen how he's pivoted during COVID. And Chef Bonnell, take it from here.
Hi, John Bonnell, and I'm the executive chef and owner of the Bonnell's Restaurant Group. 5 locations now. So Bonnell's Fine Texas Cuisine, almost 20 years old this October. We're gonna have our 20th anniversary. Waters is in Sundance Square now. We used to be in West 7th, but we moved 4 years ago. Buffalo Bros Pizza, Wings, and Subs, the original location over on University, right in the middle of TCU. And then our newest is Buffalo Bros Sundance Square. We've been there about a year, but even newer, not quite open. Hopefully by the end of this year, John's Grill Burgers and Brisket. So we're working on plans for that one. Hopefully just kind of waiting COVID out, getting some permitting, and hopefully we'll start construction in the spring and be open by late fall on that one. So I'm kind of an advocate for the small restaurant, the mom and pops around here. I'm not too worried that Chick-fil-A isn't going to make it through this. I want to make sure that all the mom and pops, the places that give this city character, make it through these troubling times. So that's kind of what I like to advocate for.
Well, John, well said. As you know, the small businesses are the backbone of our national economy, and they're the fabric of our local community. So thank you for all you do to support small businesses and support the little guy. I thought what we'd do is take a moment, and I've got a few poll questions for you just to get an idea of who's on the call. Looks like we have 43 folks on the call, and I'm going to toss up some poll questions here and see kind of who we are. It'll help our panelists know who the audience is right here in the room. And so for our first question, simple question, yes or no, do you own or manage a restaurant or food business? You should be able to click yes or no and submit. And so we'll give you maybe 5 seconds. We're going to go through these quick. We'll close it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. And so it looks like, wow. So a majority of folks are just kind of interested in hearing about the restaurant business and some of the changes. 77% are not in the food business really, and 23% are. Very good. All right, let's go to number 2. And this can be for any business. How has COVID affected your business? Not just in the food business, but in general. Has it stayed the same? Has it decreased by a quarter? Has it decreased by half? Has it decreased by 75% or more? Or, you know, it's kind of weird to think, but some businesses have improved during COVID. I know we're talking to Doug Renfro as people are answering. You know what? Let me try that again. Let's relaunch that. And now you can answer. So I was talking to Doug Renfro. Many of you know Renfro salsa. He said he can't keep ingredients in stock because people are hoarding salsa. So some people are actually thriving during the pandemic, but be curious to see how it's affected you all. We'll close this poll in 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see here. All right. So looks like 17% stayed the same. Most of the people, a third of you, your business decreased by a quarter, 17% decreased by half, 21% decreased by 75%. And there's 3 of you on the call whose business has improved. So good on you. Sometimes it's a matter of people in Purell, right? And the mask making business has probably improved. Some of you have pivoted completely and not only survived, but thrived. So good on you all. Let's go to number 3 here. And this is poll number 3. So looking forward in the next 6 months, you think your business will, number 1, return to normal, number 2, get better, number 3, get worse, or number 4, close permanently? What do you think within the next 6 months on the trajectory we're on? We'll close this in 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we've got some optimists out there, which is good because almost 70% of you figured your business will get better, and combined, looks like 8% of you think maybe things will go south, and 92% think that things will either return to normal or get better. So that's great. I know our panelists will appreciate knowing who is out there in the audience. And so panelists, what we'll do is I'll post a question, I'll pose one, and then if you're interested in answering, just start and we'll spotlight you. So the first question we've got is, how are you training your new staff? How are you training your staff in these new protocols during this time as a consumer? Many people are concerned that the staff are taking proper measures and following the health department guidelines. So we'll throw this out for whoever, maybe John or Vicky, if you'd like to jump in, being there operating every day.
Which one?
Sure. The first thing we started with was the CDC guidelines and the governor's website. They were very clear. They're very specific. The 6-foot rule, masks, sanitizer, exactly where you put everything. The protocols are not that hard to follow, but you got to put them up and show the staff and teach everybody exactly where and when to do it and how to enforce. And God, this is the hard part. This is where it always comes down to just, trouble. You have to enforce it with the guest. And when a guest walks in and says, I'm not wearing a mask, and let me tell you why, we just have to have a very simple policy. Wear a mask, come on in. You can take it off when you sit down, but otherwise you can't eat here. It's caused some controversy back and forth. There are plenty of people who go online and give you a 1-star rating and say you're discriminating against people who don't want to wear a mask. But hey, it's safe for all of us. It's the kind of stuff we've got to do. And the number of people who appreciate it and will come eat at places because they do feel safe far outnumber those who just want to say, it's my freedom not to. So we've been practicing this for quite a long time, and it's not really all that hard once you kind of get everybody trained on it.
And Chef, you mentioned that too, and then I'll go to you, Vicky. Chef, you mentioned people that leave 1-star reviews because they didn't feel like putting a mask on. I read today, you shared a post by Ben Merritt who lamented because some guy didn't want to wear a mask and he put a 1-star review, and that hurts. That hurts because people nowadays look at reviews before they make up their mind, and you were nice enough to share that with everybody. So hopefully somebody who doesn't feel like wearing a mask realizes it's not Ben Merritt, it's not John Bonnell, it's not Vicky Cisneros who's saying you have to wear a mask. This is coming from the governor. So again, sticking up for the little guy. Vicky, what about you? How are you training staff now that in this post-COVID world? I think you're on mute, Vicky. I think you're muted, Vicky. Okay.
There we go. Am I there?
You're there.
Okay. I second what John said. Doing what we need to do is the easy part. Having everything in order. We installed the sanitation stations. We trained our staff. We went over detail after detail, the wearing of gloves, of serving with gloves, of having the mask on properly. We purchased masks. We purchased the sanitation minting tables that we needed throughout because our restaurant is quite large. At our TCU location, we didn't have an issue. In our Weatherford location and our Fort Worth location, we did have some challenges with the customers not wanting to wear the mask, and that puts our employees at risk as well. So we took a hard line on that, but as you all know, stockyards, people come in, they're wanting to have a good time, and we continue to have problems with the customers. And I went to my mastermind group, of which Donald is a part of, and he put it to me, maybe some thinking outside of the box. How can we solve this? So we actually had installed people as kind of a patrol in a very nice and funny way. We had a guy, he wore a t-shirt, and he was the social distance patrol. And he walked around and he just put up a sign that says, "You're too close for comfort," or whatever we could do. But I don't think that I think people can be comfortable that restaurants of all places are doing everything we can to make sure that our guests are safe and our employees are safe. So the challenges are the customers that don't want to follow the mandates. But I think we're seeing some changes in that now. Wouldn't you agree, John, that it's gotten a little bit better? At least it has for us.
Yeah, overall, it has gotten better, but the severity or the passion of those who just really feel like they're right doesn't seem to be going away. So if it's 1 out of 100, that's that's a lot of people who come in and ruin your day. And there's websites out there that kind of train and teach. You keep hearing the exact same phrases over and over, like, this is an unenforceable mandate, and let me explain why, or I have a medical condition and you're not allowed to ask me why. There are information sources for the fringe groups telling them how to avoid the mask. And I say, look, it's not my rule, and I don't even want to enforce it. If you want to eat here, this is how we do it. But we have to take those negative examples and put them out there just to help drive business. I bet you Ben Merritt and Fixture are as busy this weekend as they could possibly be because someone gave them a 1-star and we put it out there and said, hey, you know what? You deserve better than this. You want to go to a restaurant that's safe? Go support this guy and give him a 5-star because it's going to take 10 of you to make up for the lack of score on that 1-star. So if we can turn it around in ways like that, I think it's better for the public in general health-wise, and it just helps put a better face on what restaurants are having to cope with right now. I kind of like putting it out there so that other restaurants know they're not alone.
Yes, and I think it's great, John, that we finally can have a voice in social media that's not yes, 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 because we've had the same thing happen where people come in, they're upset, they write a terrible review, and there's not much we can do. But stepping forth to defend ourselves and to defend our industry, I think it's time that we not do that in maybe a way that's political or substandard in any way towards hospitality. Just the fact that if this is an unfair review, we have the right to speak up to that.
Well, Vicky, your comments remind me of that. Remember that old adage, the customer is always right? Well, we've learned, you know what? The customer is not always right. I think that's what managers and owners tell their employees so their employees don't say something stupid to upset their customer. But the customer is not always right. And I think we're seeing right now an example of when they're not right. And I think it's also tough to see a poor review left for a restaurant that is totally out of the restaurant owner's control. Donald, I'd like to get your take on this. What do you think? What are restaurants, what's the mistake that restaurants are making that you're seeing right now in a post-COVID world when it comes to making customers comfortable and making people feel safe? And then how do you respond to customers who just won't take no for an answer and won't wear the mask?
So, everything Vicky and John said are correct. You have to stand your ground and back up whatever you implement as far as the COVID planning. I'm going to go on a limb here and say, just because the title of my book, I like to say that the customer is not always right, but the customer is always the customer, and it's okay for the customer to be wrong. And so the biggest thing you can do as an independent restaurant is to blast social media about why you're different. So do videos of the new protocols you're using. Show people still having a great time in your restaurant. Show your team wearing a mask. Show your team using sanitation. So show your team, show that you're going above and beyond to try to accommodate people as best as possible, but then also stand by your guns and saying, but if you come to our restaurant, you will be asked to wear a mask. Okay, because it's just, and again, like Chef said, I don't want to enforce the rule. It's the rule. It's the mandate. It's legislation. I'm not going to jeopardize my business for not wearing a mask. But go out of your way. I think the biggest thing all independent restaurants do is you have to make your restaurant known on social media and basically demonstrate and show the core values that you live and show the mandates that you're enforcing. And then work with your team. One of the biggest things that we do, and this is one of the things I teach in the mastermind group, is we don't train people till they get it right. You train your team until they can't get it wrong. And how do you do that? Do role playing. All right, you got an angry, guy coming in the front door. He refused to wear a mask. What do? Go. And then have some kind of, have some role playing where you've put them in that situation where they start understanding, all right, don't aggravate them. How do I talk them down? How do I explain our positioning? But walk them through the stuff. So many times people get thrown off, get a curveball because things are going great. And then all of a sudden you get that one guy or girl that walks in the door and just wants to be a jerk. But if we don't train our team how to deal with jerks, they usually handle it wrong. They usually handle it poorly, But you got to work with your team. And again, train them till they can't get it wrong. Don't train them till they get it right. And role playing, I think, is probably one of the most underrated training tools in the world. You should do it with your leadership team. You should do it with your service team. You should do it with your host. Anybody who has contact with the guest should do some kind of role playing. And you start off nice, and then as it gets going, you start throwing a little more curveballs in there. I have a medical condition and my doctor says it's illegal for you to tell me to wear a mask. Well, maybe we should call your doctor. Start laughing so hard I start coughing.
And then Donald can write his next book, Your Doctor Still Sucks. So we get a whole series coming out.
Your doctor sucks.
Okay. You're a mask hole.
You're a mask hole. Stop being a mask hole. But, you have to defend your business. And like Chef said, you're going to get these idiots that come in and they're going to write bad reviews. Go out of your way to make sure you state your point. Make sure you go out of the way to defend your reputation. And, are you going to get some bad people? Of course. Everybody does. I don't think there's anybody on this call hasn't had a bad review at least once. They happen.
Well, in talking about difficult situations on social media, I'm curious to ask you three, what kind of efforts have worked well on social media, whether it's talking about how you're repackaging food or sharing a new story on how you're keeping things safer in the restaurant. How have you used social media to your advantage, not just to deal with those people that post negative reviews, but also to put some positivity and some security out there for your customers?
Be proactive. Use video. I mean, everyone has right here in their hand. They have the most amazing mobile studio in the world, and it has a video component. You just got to turn it on. But most people are afraid. And I'm telling you right now, if you've never done video before for your restaurant, don't be afraid. No one cares what you look like. No one cares. Like, my hair's down. I go, oh yeah, I'm not wearing. No one cares. If your message is solid and you're passionate about what you do, that'll get through no matter what. But
Vicky,
you got to use that phone. You got to get it out there.
Vicky, over to you. What have you done on social media that's worked well?
I've been doing Facebook Live. I think that has worked well. People want to see what you're doing, exactly what Donald said. They want to see the protocols that you're putting in place for safety. They want to see that you can still have fun. So for social media, for me, I've done a couple of appeals to my customers. We tried to pivot and kind of find new ways to do new business in COVID. So we started doing the pop-ups, which showing our team going out, taking food into the neighborhood, people clapping and yelling for our group delivering to the neighborhoods. That went over very well. People want to see what you're actually doing. Going into the kitchen, letting people see my girls making the salsa. One of my ladies, that was one of the biggest things that happened on social media. One of my bussers, or as Donna would say, sanitation experts, she makes her salsa every morning, and I'm always asking her, Alicia, why is your salsa so great? Why is it so great? And she told me, oh, Senora, I pray over it every day. And I said, okay. Well, somehow that got posted on social media, and it had so many likes and so much engagement. So anything that involves your staff, supporting your staffs, involving your customers, who have been with you for many, many years, those things seem to be doing very well. But the live video, that is what people want to see. That's the new frontier, I guess, in social media.
In case you haven't heard, and I just put it up on the screen, it's a little hard to read, but Los Vaqueros, Half Price Wednesdays, right? Is that happening right now, Half Price Wednesdays?
That was yesterday, but yes.
Okay, so mark your calendars for next Wednesday. Chef Bonnell, how have you used social media? I mean, that's almost like a fish in a barrel question, because you are everywhere. How have you used social media for the one person living under a rock who hasn't seen John Bonnell on social media? What's the short answer?
Man, I've heard so much about this Facebook thing. I'm gonna have to sign up and get an account. Sounds cool. So what we've been doing during the pandemic is putting up a still photo every single day that we've got something on the curbside of that image. So this morning, let's see, we were doing brisket, and make it funny, make it cool, but it's got to be high def, really good imagery. What I find is a lot of people, they wake up in the morning and their standard morning routine, check the news, check their email, and they start scrolling. They start going through Facebook or Instagram, whatever their feed is. That's how they start their morning. They want to scroll. So if by 6:30, I've got something that's quick, easy. Good morning, Frontage Roadsters. Tonight is brisket. Here's the menu. See y'all at 3:30. We have done it every single day since March 18th, the day they made us close. And somehow every day they keep lining up on the curb. When the staff says, when are we going to be done with this? I said, as long as they're lining up, I'll do it every day. I don't see any reason to close. This model is working. It's feeding as many people as we can for the least possible price and still making a small profit out of it. It's kind of half community service, half keeping the catering team still working, since we're obviously not catering a lot of weddings and big parties right now. And as long as we're making some money at it and people still want to do it, if I put that menu up every single morning, it's going to work. I try to make it as brief as possible so that it hits the scroll without having to hit that little see more and, scroll button. If it's one small paragraph and a really good photo, people say, okay, great. I've seen the line. It must be popular. There's always people there. They're with gloves. They put it in your back seat. They know you're being safe. It's a contact-free way to get a meal for $4 for $10 a head. We don't offer any pre-orders, anything like that. That's the model that we just adopted very quickly. And I say, as long as it's working, I'm going to keep doing it. Now, when it's our days off, Sundays and Mondays, I also feel, since we've been at this a really long time and have developed a pretty big following in social media, that's when we can turn it around and try to help support other people and say, hey, if you guys haven't seen the special going on at Jube's Smokehouse, this guy is something else, repost somebody else's. That seems like a really easy and free kind of community service that the rest of the restaurant industry really needs. We've been compiling a list of like 200 local restaurants. When somebody says, hey, who do y'all recommend? I'm like, here you go, in alphabetical order, starting with 360 Smoke Shack, going through Zoli's. That's the kind of stuff that I think really endears your customers to say, yeah, hey, they're sticking up for other people too. And it puts us all in the independent restaurant scene on the same page, and we're all on the same team, not competing with each other. Again, Domino's isn't going anywhere. Chick-fil-A will be just fine. The independents that show character in this town, we need to be on the same team in a lot of ways.
Well, and I can say from personal experience, Chef, that if you've ever driven down Southwest Boulevard about 3:30 on a weekday and you think that there's been a parade and that's why traffic is backed up for 3 miles, it's not that. It's because John Bonnell's his social media pivot has been so successful. So, John, thanks for showing us how to do it. It can be done with dignity and civility and grace, and you can make it fun and turn a pandemic into something that can bring folks together and keep people employed. That's a classic master class on how to deal with turn lemons into lemonade, as we'd say in the restaurant business. Donald, I'd be curious to hear what are some of the most effective things that you have seen restaurants do during COVID. And watch out, he's got the professional mic. Look out. He's ready to call in his signature band.
I'm ready.
Let's get ready to rumble, huh?
I'm ready.
Right.
Get ready to rumble. So I want to go off what Chef John said. So he really hit on this. I'm going to tell you the secret of social media. Everyone ready? Everyone gather close. Gather close, because I don't want this secret to get out. Everyone ready? Here is the secret to social media. It's about being social. All right, not much of a secret, right? And Chef John hit on it. Don't just support your place and don't just talk about you. Most of the time when we go on social media, we tend to talk about ourselves. There's a great rule out there in business called the Pareto principle, or an 80-20 law. Take the 80-20 law and apply it to your social media. 80% should be about other people. 20% should be about yourself. If you do that, you will dominate the social media market in your neighborhood. So get out there and do exactly what he said. You got support the other businesses. There's plenty of business for everybody. Trust me, there is. So what am I seeing restaurants doing right now? Well, of course, when COVID happened, what's the biggest thing that took a number one hit was our sales, especially our sales numbers. Sales numbers tanked right away. So what we've been doing with our mastermind group is don't focus on the vanity metrics. Vanity metrics, we get so caught up in our ego and our pride and denial that we look at the vanity metrics and we start thinking, oh my God, my sales dropped 25, 50%, 75%. And that's great. And that's sad, I know. But what you should be focusing on is, what's my profitability? We have restaurants now that are actually 25, 50% doing less volume, but they're 10 to 12 to 15% more profitable than they ever been before. The number one thing most of us forget is that sales and volume hides a lot of sins, especially how we were running a restaurant. I wrote an article a while ago. It's on my website. I said, the coronavirus isn't your fault, but how you ran your restaurant before is your fault, which is true. If you weren't running a very profitable operation, if you were just squeaking by, and I had predicted in 2021 or 2022 that the restaurant bubble was going to burst anyway, because we had, and we have all seen it. We reached a point of oversaturation. Too many restaurants, people opening up restaurants left and right, hard to find talent. It was a big, huge war for talent, which I tend to think it's a war with talent, not for talent. And, it was going to bust anyway. COVID just kind of sped that up a lot. That's all, but I know like Vicky is seeing more profits now than she had before COVID. And she's doing less volume. A lot of the clients that I work with in my mastermind groups and in my private coaching, they're seeing a lot more profitability now. And that's what you got to do. Get off the vanity metrics about, I'm not doing my 2.2 million this year. That's okay. I'd rather have a restaurant doing $1 million and doing 15% profit than doing 2.2 and only 3% profit.
So let's ask a question that maybe is a little more applicable to people who are not necessarily in the food business. Let's talk about when people leave a bad review online. I think, how many of you out there, whether it's a business you manage or own or work for, have seen a bad review posted about your business online? Raise your hand. Yeah, I think we probably all have. What are some best practices into handling? And Chef, I'm gonna do you last because I know you've got a lot to say. Vicky, any suggestions when someone leaves something negative or fair or unfair? How do you handle it? What's the best way to approach it, knowing that the world could very well be watching?
Okay, I have I typically will try to reach out to that person. And sometimes I'll just point blank ask them why, how did this happen? And I listen to what they have to say to me. I listen and then we talk and I try to give my point of view. I listen to their point of view. And there have been very few times that I have not been able to have someone retract what they've written or explain to them. And sometimes that explanation really is a simple, I'm terribly sorry. Give my team some grace right now. Maybe this did happen. I want to do better. And I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. A lot of times when I handle it that way, I see that it is withdrawn, or someone will come back and write something very nice about our industry or our restaurant. If I'm unable to meet with that person or reach out to them, and I can be very, I can be like a spy, try to find them in however it's possible, a friend of a friend of a friend, and find out who they are. And I will ask them. If that doesn't work, I will try to get an address and write them. I think a handwritten note is always a good way to say, hey, sorry things didn't work out for you this time. We're all human. Again, give us some grace here, and please come back post-COVID and try us out. I did that with someone who was upset about a mask. I said, I'm sorry, we have to enforce this, but here's a gift card. Come back and see me when COVID is over. So I tend to like to handle things straightforward in an honest way, and let them know the human factor that we're doing our best. And we always try to do our best. And that's how I handle it.
And Vicki, that's such a graceful way to answer the question. We had an interesting question posted in the chat now by Maggie Escobar, and she asked, can the customer retract the review from online? Have you ever had that happen where you reply and then a customer maybe will change their review? Have you ever seen that happen to you after a comment or reply that you posted on their original review?
I have had it happen to me, yes.
Chef, I saw you nodding your head too. Tell us a little bit about how you deal with negativity online and how you engage them, and maybe any results that you've seen from that.
Sure. We usually take one of two approaches, and they're extremely different. Usually when somebody gives you 2 or 3 stars and they say, you know, my steak was overcooked, the server wasn't very attentive, you know, whatever it was, they didn't like it. My approach is you got to own it and absolutely come straight forward and honest and say, you're right, we charge a premium. And if you are not completely happy, then we need to do better. And sometimes that type of honesty and owning the mistakes goes a long way. And I've seen people take the review down. Sometimes that does happen. In the extreme case that the customer themselves need to turn around and get reviewed instead of us being reviewed, like in the case of masks, or when somebody comes in and says, hey, by the way, we're pretty senior reviewers with TripAdvisor, so you may need to give some free stuff to us. And then they write something bad because you didn't and you refuse to. Those are the times that I say it's time to lean into it and knock one out of the park at their demise, not yours. They want to go and give you a 1-star review because you wouldn't give them free stuff or because you're enforcing the mask mandate. Turn it around, absolutely humiliate them on social media because they're 100% wrong. You better be right for the very few that you choose that for, but you can turn a negative into the biggest positive ever. We chased one guy completely off Facebook and he is in hiding right now because of the type of reviews and stuff that he wrote. And all I did was screenshot what he wrote, specifically what he texted to employees, and just posted it for him. He tried to get his own social media going. Nobody would do it. So I shared it for him and put all the screenshots up. That guy's almost in hiding, but it helps when the customer's totally wrong to turn it around on them. 99% of the time, the customer's probably right. They were probably unhappy for something. And if you just be honest with them, own it, sometimes it goes a long way to endearing yourselves to, you know, being honest.
If you're not following Chef Bonnell on Facebook, you should be, because every once in a while he will take, like he said, I remember what you're talking about. You took a screenshot of the review a number of times of the review that someone posted and how unfair it was, and your Bonnell's support army of just regular people will go on that person's page and sort of social shame them into either going into hiding or deactivating their website, Facebook page, or changing the review that they wrote. Donald, what have you seen? You've seen a number of restaurants. How you respond to social media really help brand you and affect your reputation?
So it's, of course, reputation is everything. You always want to protect your reputation. The biggest thing I want to say up front is that, did you know that 50% of negative reviews are written while they're in your restaurant? And the reason why is that they did not feel that they got their issue settled or someone didn't resolve the thing. So this is where it's very important to work with your team about reading body language. You can tell, trust me, everyone on this call understands body language, and you can tell when someone's not having a good time. And you have to teach your team to be kind of like problem seekers. Because and here's the thing I tell all my clients is that your problems are a gift. Because how many people come in your restaurant, have a bad experience, don't write a bad review, don't say anything. They'd never come back. But you know what? They go out of their way to tell their friends, oh, don't go to that place. It was terrible. So your problem, when someone says they had a bad time, oh my God, thank you for the opportunity. That's what I want you to look at. And most time, and I've been there before, and I've had people like sitting there going like, oh, table 5 has a problem, chef, and you're just like, oh, damn it, and you're going to the table and you already have negative energy about it. I like to have the energy like, oh my God, there's a problem, great, I'm on it. And I go to the table, it's like, oh my God, what do we do? How can we help you? The biggest thing you want to do is, number one, take any kind of negative stuff, take it offline. Like Vicky says, try to contact them personally. And then also just admit, hey, listen, you did not have the experience that we wanted you to have. We would love the opportunity to earn your business back. What can I do to make it right? And then contact me and either give me your cell phone or give me your email, but take it offline. The last thing you want to see is, people airing their dirty laundry online or getting in an argument with some internet troll who, who wants to argue about his steak. That thing was perfectly, and John, and being a chef, like I can tell, like John has this thing too. They said it wasn't medium rare. That thing was perfect medium rare, okay? It was like perfect. What are you talking about? That thing was like perfect. But you can't argue about what medium rare is to a guest, because what problem is too? Most people order meat temperatures based on something they heard in a movie. I'll have it medium rare. And then when that thing really comes out medium rare, like, oh my God, it's raw. It's like, no, that's medium rare. And like, oh no.
The worst thing a server can tell you in the kitchen is, hey, they said they ordered this medium rare. And I look at it and I say, okay, do they want to cook more or less? I'm like, well,
Yeah,
I don't know. Like,
you know,
how do you not? You need to solve that problem. It's
Solve the
not,
problem.
hey, we've got a problem. It's, oh, how are we gonna get to the other side of this? Find out for sure. Do you want this cooked a little more? Or do you want one that's cooked a little less? Always attack it as, how are we gonna make this person absolutely as happy as they could be before they get out the door?
Exactly.
That's the key.
Yeah.
It's not okay to be right. It's okay to have them happy. That's the key.
That's the thing. Yeah. And don't let your ego and your pride get involved, because it'll take you down fast.
In 20 years, I've only kicked out 4 customers. I mean, man, do you want to sometimes? I've only had to kick out 4 people. That whole, Gordon Ramsay approach of get out of my restaurant does not go well.
I'll tell you a funny story. So when I was a young chef, I was probably like 23 when I had my first chef job, 24. And I remember I was that typical egotistical, you're not going to have the dishes altered anyway. You must have the dish the way I envisioned it and created it. It is my masterpiece on the plate. You will eat it exactly the way I designed it. And so I had like no substitutions, no sauces on the side. It was crazy. And the owner of the restaurant pulls me in his office. He goes, you love your food. You do a great job. People love it. But you know how you kind of have that kind of, attitude about, I'm not going to do stuff on the side, or I'm not going to alter the dishes anyway. I go, yeah. He goes, well, when you do that, people aren't going to come back. And if they don't come back enough, we won't have any guests at all. And if we don't have any guests, I can't pay you. I'm like, oh, so this isn't about my ego. This is about making sure people are happy. All right. And it was like it was a wake up call to me. Like, and then anytime somebody come in the kitchen, hey chef, can I get this? Of course. Yes. Perfect. Whatever you want. Hey, can they want to sub out these vegetables? Yes, of course. Everything from else. Yes.
Well, Donald, that's a great point. We had a couple other restaurateurs join the call, and I'd like to ask them, to put them on the spot on what is the craziest thing someone has posted about you or your food or your restaurant online, and how did you respond to it? Let's go with, speaking of picky chefs, particular chefs, we got the most particular donut master. If you've ever seen one of his concoctions, this perfect, the Oreo cookie, the Fruity Pebbles. Melvin does a little bit of everything. Melvin, what's the craziest thing that anyone has ever written about Doughboy Donuts, and how'd you handle it?
I think for me, and you really put me on the spot, because but I think for me, people aren't used to a gourmet donut or a donut that's made from scratch. They're used to something coming out of a bag or a box, or something that's frozen and thawed out overnight. And people come with the perception that they're going to get a fancy donut, toppings and fancy glaze that's going to be on a QT donut. And people they get, quite frankly, they're pissed off about it. And and then they say, oh, well, this is, we charge a certain price. Our prices are pretty premium in the donut world, but it's all due to the process. We roll, cut, and fry fresh throughout the day. We dress our donuts to order. We serve them warm, and that's a part of the atmosphere and the environment, and a part of our charm. And people don't realize that. I guess that's pretty much it. There's been some pretty silly ones. Like, one guy was very upset that his donut had just came out of the fryer. It was super hot. It was burning our hands. It's too hot to even glaze, but we were so busy that we couldn't keep up with the amount of people who were coming in. And he was like, hey, I got my glazed donut, and the top part of the donut is caved in a little bit where the bread had kind of broke. And I'm like, dude, like, of all the things to complain about, like, you're getting a donut literally right out of the fryer. Like, there's nothing to complain about. So whatever.
You were going to chew it anyway, right?
Exactly.
If you've never had a Doughboy donut, you don't know what you're missing. Another restaurateur that I'd love to profile is our good friend Adrian Burciaga. If you ever had a chance to eat in the Modern Art Museum, they have one of the most amazing buffets. I know Adrian, he's moved on, but he was a fixture there for a long time. Adrian, what's the craziest thing a restaurant ever posted about your a customer ever posted about your restaurant, and how did you handle it? Oh, Adrian, we're not getting any audio. We don't hear any audio from you. All right, we're working on technical difficulties. We're going to come back to Adrian, but I'd like to go to Amy Shackelford, who has her hand up. And if you know Amy, she's always got something to say, and it's always very, very insightful. So, Amy, you want to come off mute? I'd love to spotlight you, but you're too shy to turn your video on, or it's not working. Oh, you're on your phone. Oh no, you just came from
I'm
the
here.
dentist. You
Yeah.
came from the dentist. Okay, so
Can y'all
yeah,
hear me?
we hear you fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm swollen on one side and it's not no bueno today. So here we are. I have to tell you a story. We have a review on Branch and Bird, and this lady came and enjoyed her dinner. She seemed lovely all through the evening. She kept taking amazing photos of her food and herself. So she posted all those pictures as the review and told us how terrible our food was, and at the very end of the review asked if we would like to give her an interview because she was looking for a chef job. It was the craziest thing we've ever seen.
What did you say? What did you say after she asked you such a question after what she just did?
So I responded publicly through the program that we have. It was through Open Table, and said, you know, we appreciate your lovely photos. Currently, we're not hiring. However, feel free to send me any other private messages to my email. And that's how I typically handle those situations. So I had to share that. I just thought it was the craziest thing that they would totally, I mean, she just was rude and then she wanted a job. It was crazy.
Amy, sometimes you just have to ask yourself, some people's children, what do you do?
I think that worked on an episode of Friends one time.
Hey, chefs. Okay, so I'd like to give the last word, give each of you maybe 1 minute just to give us the final word. Do you think we'll go back to normal? What does normal look like? And what's your outlook for the future of the food business?
I think there we go. I think when we say normal, there's two different factors at play, and they both have to intersect for us to call this normal. On one side, we've got all regulations lifted. You can do whatever you want. On the other side, you have to have the public ready and feeling safe and confident to go back out and act like they used to and hug each other in public and be in a crowded bar and feel nice about it and not wear masks everywhere. I think that the regulations are probably headed towards lifting. I would guess late May, early June. I don't have a crystal ball or any inside knowledge on that, but once you get everybody that wants a vaccine, there's going to be a point where everybody says, okay, that we've done as much as we can. And I think that's probably, several months from now, but we'll get there. On the Buffalo Brothers side, everybody's ready to pack the place tomorrow if we let them. On the fine dining side of Bonnell's and Waters, it's going to take longer. There are people that are going to still wear a mask years from now. I think that the new model for the future needs to incorporate all of the possible conveniences like ordering on apps and being able to pick up, grab and go, all of those things we're going to be seeing for a really long time. The lower end, lower price point stuff will come flying back as fast as possible. The higher end full service restaurants and being able to pack into a bar, I think it's going to take more time because you're dealing with a clientele that is still more vulnerable even as we move past this. Once those two things move together, maybe early mid-fall feels like what we might call normal. That's my guess.
We need that kind of optimism. I know if you're like me, you're dying to go travel, get on a plane, go across the pond somewhere, and really dying to get back to support our local food establishments. And there's just something about being in a dining room and you feel the electricity of it's full and it's packed, or you're at a sports bar. I kind of miss being in crowds because it's something we haven't done in so long. Vicky, what about you? Are you optimistic? Are you a little pessimistic about the future of the food industry? What do you think is coming around down the pike?
I am actually extremely optimistic. I feel that absence makes the heart grow fonder, so to speak. And we've heard a lot of surveys and interviews where people have said, what are the top 3 things that you've missed in your life? And one has been being with friends and family. The second being dining out. And the third may be attending music and concerts. Concerts and theater. So I feel that as soon as there is a herd immunity, which it looks as if we might achieve that this summer or early fall. I feel like that people who have missed doing weddings, who have missed doing birthday parties, who have missed doing events with friends and family are going to look forward to going out to dinner. I think travel might be something that comes a little later, simply because people are just going to be happy to get out of their house. I'm optimistic. I think that if we just hang on through this spring, early summer, we already see a lot of things turning around. We see a lot of events that are being booked for the fall. We're booking holiday parties. So, and that could be the optimism of the community, but I do feel that we are going to be okay. I think that it's going to be important to keep your current programs in place, your, grab and go, your delivery, your curbside, and the more of those that you can offer and have different streams of revenue for your business is going to be important, because as John said, there's going to be, you're going to have several different types of customers in the future. I think that that is something that is not going to be measurable at this time. I think next year we'll know a lot more about how the future of restaurants are going to be. But, and Donald taught me this, restaurant, I believe if I remember correctly, it is a place of rest. And Donald could speak to that exactly. But I think that people really look forward to the camaraderie and the fun that they have sitting at a dinner table. I personally look so forward to going out to dinner with my friends and family. So I think we're optimistic.
Vicki, I love the optimism. Donald, we've got 30 seconds and we'll throw it over to you for the final word.
So, the main thing is just everyone just, stay the course. Things are going to adjust just like they always do. And, I think restaurant people are the most resilient type of people in the world. And I think that we'll get through this. If you've made it this far, the chances of you making it, a few more months are fantastic. So just keep a positive outlook. Some stuff that we've adopted during COVID are going to stay the same. People did start realizing that they like ordering online and getting stuff taken home and being able to eat your dinner at home and stream Netflix. They like that kind of stuff. So that's not going to go away. But as Chef John said, the more fast casual places will adapt quicker and get people back. Fine dining will definitely take a little bit more time to people get comfortable. But I'm looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to restaurants still being the place where, like Vicki mentioned, a place people go to restore their soul. So.
Well, folks, we're 3 for 3 on optimistic panelists for the future of the food industry. We'd like to really thank our sponsors, CLA and Rick. You're out there in Zoom land. We just really appreciate you being so kind and so generous and sponsoring the panel today. And of course, thank you to our outstanding panel of experts. We've got Chef John Bonnell, we've got the lovely Vicki Cisneros, and we've got the Your Chamber Still Sucks Because You're Not the Fort Worth Chamber, Donald Burns. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody at the Chamber for organizing this. We hope that you've enjoyed this. We will post this on social media shortly on our Facebook page. Go like John Bonnell's Facebook page. Go like Los Vaqueros. Go to them for Wednesday night half-price margaritas. And we wish you the best of luck. Take care, and we'll see you at the next Chamber event.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Carlo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.